Hey, free thinkers. You know, sometimes when you're having conversations, you got to be mindful of your surroundings and who's in earshot of what you're talking about because people will interject themselves into your conversation and have these conspiracy theories that they put in, they're trying to tell you about, but have no facts behind what they're saying. So, my oldest son took me to my doctor's appointment this morning because it requires somebody to bring me to the appointment. So my oldest son brought me to the doctor's appointment this morning, and after the doctor's appointment, he took me out to breakfast. Which I got. I got two good sons, but took me out to breakfast, and we're in the restaurant, sitting in the back. Obviously, this is a restaurant that he goes to a lot because they know him. They already, I guess they already know where always like to be seated. So they see them in a quiet area, and this is a lady that's sitting about two booths away from us, and we're talking about some things, and this lady interject herself into our conversation. Now we were talking about the pocket quarterback compared to the quarterback that doesn't stand in the pocket. So he was showing me the stats of the pocket quarterback in the last 10 years compared to the last 5 years of the Patrick Mahomes and the Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. And the gentleman from Washington D.C., the Washington Commanders, he was showing me how the difference within the 10 years of the pocket quarterback compared to 5 years of these quarterbacks and how the change. So the conversation that we were having had nothing to do with what this lady is talking about, and that's why I said you got to be not even careful, but who interject themselves into your conversation when the conversation have nothing to do with what they're talking about or what we were talking about. So to make a long story short, that's what my son was talking to me about, and this lady said the election was rigged. And my son turned around to her and asked her, "What election?" She said, "This last election was rigged." And my son said, "In whose favor?" And she said, in this president's favor. So he says, "Okay, and what's your proof?" She said that the voting booths that was at the Jacob Javits Center, um, because the electric company, I'm not gonna. These are all alleged allegations, so I'm not even going to bring up these companies' name. But the electric company in New York City, that's up to you guys to look up who's the electric company for New York City. But the electric company for New York City, based on the wattage that was being driven through the Javits Center, crashed, and that's why the the vice president lost a lot of votes. So my son said to her, "With all the media present we have, how come you're the only one that have this information and no other media outlet have this information?" So she said because she know a lot of people and she brought it to their attention. So my son said to her, "Well, if you brought it to their attention, then what happened?" She said she sent the information to this particular news outlet and they ran a story. So my son said, "What year did you do it, and what's your handle page?" And she told him her handle page and who she sent the story to. So my son put it in and says, "I'm sorry, there's no such story on this news platform." She said, "Well, she sent it to them. It's up to them to put it out there." So he said, "Well, that's not what you said. You said you gave them the story, which they produced it, but I'm looking at the page and what you said is not on here." So she said that, well, if it was the Michelle Obama who was running, she would have won the election because this country is not set up for a woman to become president. So my son said, if you just said that the country is not set up for a woman to run the presidency, what difference does it make what candidate you put up to run for president, right? Based on what you just said. So she's telling us that she's the president for this local, which is the Carpenters Union, because her father was a part of the carpenters union, but she didn't want to do the manual labor, so she just went into the union. And she know that a lot of these masons were involved in the election. So my son said to her, "There's different type of masons. Which one?" She said, "All of them." And he said, "Well, they're different type of masons, right? So which one are you saying is involved with this?" She can't pinpoint which one. So my son said to her, "Well, if you can't pinpoint which one, and if you can't, and if you're saying it's a story that you give to a certain news media, and I'm looking at it and it never went through, you're spreading false rumor, and the stuff that you're doing is why people are running with some of these stories." So she said, "Oh, I could see that you voted for Donald Trump." He said, "Regardless of who I vote for, what you're saying, right, is inaccurate, and it's stories like this that creates problem within the Republican, Democratic Party, and Independent Party, because you're saying something that never happened. You think if these media outlets heard of a story that that the electric company shut down the Jacob Javits Center so that the votes couldn't be counted, you don't think nobody will know of that?" She said, "Well, she spoke to a whole bunch of politicians. Which one?" She don't remember. So he's telling her, "Listen, until you have your facts right, some of the stuff you're saying you shouldn't be saying." And they went to an entirely different universe. And he said to me, "This is why you have to be careful of the information that people give to you, because they'll present false information and run with it." So, free thinkers, that's what happened to me this morning. Casual conversation with my son about football, and this lady interjected herself into our conversation that had nothing to do with politics. So you could just be out having a good morning with your son or your daughter about football, baseball, basketball, or with your daughter, girly stuff, and somebody interject into a conversation have nothing to do with what you're talking about, and have no information to back up what they're saying, but hoping that by what they tell you, you'll feed into it. Free thinkers.